Good morning, everyone. How lovely it is to be here. Let me bask in this moment for a brief second. It's good to get off the internet, isn't it? It means that you just have space to think about other things. You don't get cluttered. So yeah, I'm very excited to be here this morning. Okay, what are we talking about today? Wow, I did catch a couple of interviews with this Nick Fuentes fellow. I thought, let me see what he's all about. So I caught him on, I think I'd seen him already on Tucker. I'd seen him, I also saw him when a really young guy who asked great questions and he just let him speak. That's how interviews should be conducted, Piers Morgan. So this young guy was interesting, the way he let him speak. And then I caught him, of course, on Piers Morgan this week. And I can't lie to you, it gave me so much pleasure to watch a 30-year-old completely dismantling Piers Morgan's narrative. So how do I do this video in as diplomatic a way as possible? Piers Morgan is a gentleman who lives in West London in Kensington. Kensington is considered one of the nicest parts of London to live in, if not the nicest part of London to live in. So he doesn't understand, or he's not exposed to the real and true London experience. So I'm not really sure why and I think because of what had happened with him and the whole Meghan Markle debacle, he's very careful not to be labeled as being racist. So do I think Nick Fuentes is racist? No, I do not. I think, why does he call himself that? It's a very easy question to answer. When people are constantly calling you that thing, which I don't think he is, then it's just easier to accept what they're saying so that they have nothing else to say. There's nothing further to say. So I think this was the thing with why Piers was so stumped. It's because he's saying that he's racist, Nick, and so what further question can Piers come back at him with? So it's a very smart way to sort of shut down people like Piers Morgan. But Nick came out with some fantastic one-liners. It was just a funny interview, and the farther it proceeded, the clearer it became that A, Piers Morgan is completely out of touch with reality, and B, he's just bought and paid for. And young people, what Nick said is correct. These older people, I was about to say gentlemen, but let's just say older people, they're not in touch with reality. They don't understand what's going on. They don't understand the plight of young people. And these labels, it's just a way for them to manipulate audiences. The reason I don't think that Nick Fuentes is racist is because you can't be if you are friends with Kanye and you listen to his music, and he's partly Mexican, I believe, even if he doesn't, even if he considers himself fully Caucasian, he can consider himself to be anything he wants. So I don't. Nick Fuentes, I believe, has been brought up in Chicago. I love the sound of that word, Chicago. It's just got such a nice ring to it. If you have been brought up in a city where you've seen things happening, then, and those things are illegal activity or dangerous activity or activity that's detrimental, then that's your worldview. And it would be sensible to have that at the back of my mind for safety reasons. And what that doesn't mean that you're racist. It just means you're being practical and you're being logical. What I think is a real shame is that a small group of people in every culture and ethnicity behave in a way that causes disruption to the rest of the good people in that ethnicity and culture. And this is all across the board, all across the board, even within Caucasian culture, okay? So, no, what he's saying isn't racist, it's just the environment that he's been brought up in. And I think cultures and ethnicities need to stamp out bad behavior, whatever the bad behavior might be. For example, as an example, I feel a real sense of responsibility to always not only represent myself and my family, but also the ethnicity that I come from. Because if I behave in a way that is not conducive to decent living or correct living, then people are automatically going to label me as, oh, that Persian, oh, Persians are all like this. But look what's happened. This is what's been happening for years and years and years with regards to Iran, and it's only recently that people have started to wake up. And so, yeah, we all have a responsibility to make sure that we conduct ourselves in the correct way. Similarly, if British people go on holiday to certain parts of Spain, they have a bad reputation for being football hooligans or people who just drink and cause fights, etc., etc. So this is not a color thing. It's not related to color. It's just related to certain a minority of people behave badly and then it affects everyone else. And then these dangerous ideologies take place. Do I think what he's spouting is dangerous? I don't know that I think it's dangerous. I just think that it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that that's what he's been surrounded by and that's what he knows. He's a young guy. I think his worldview will change in time. But I also think that America has a very, very complicated and somewhat unusual relationship with race. You don't get that kind of difficulty between races, I think, if you get out of America. Having said that, it's becoming more pronounced even in places like the UK because of immigration and the native people of the UK in particular, not just the native people of the UK, but predominantly the native people of the UK feel that it's just too much and it's ruining the landscape and they want things to go back to how it used to be. And yesterday, incidentally, I saw an interview with Milo. I always call him Milo Minneapolis, not only because I like the sound of Minneapolis, but also because his name, I can't remember his name, and it just works somehow. So Milo Minneapolis, I remember him from way back when, and then he sort of disappeared off the internet, and then he's recently come back. And I'm so shocked by how mellowed out he's become. In that interview yesterday with Piers Morgan, he came across as really measured, reasonable, and empathetic. He was saying that we have to understand why young men or young people have the thinking that they do and the ideology that they do. And I feel exactly the same way. If you don't try and put yourself in someone else's shoes and recognize why they're feeling the way that they are or have the thinking that they do, then you're out of touch with reality. Doesn't mean that we agree with those things. No, you don't need to agree with those things. You just need to understand why someone has the thinking that they do. Something else that was connected to this that I thought was important. Mm, Nick Fuentes seems to hate everyone or dislike everyone. He's got an issue with Tucker because Tucker was not was not honorable in terms of behaving a certain way in his interview with Nick, and then after the interview starting to label him and calling him a certain label. Nick doesn't like this. He, like me, he likes people to be straightforward and speak to his face the way that they would speak to him behind his back. And so that relationship seems to have broken down. He doesn't have anything favorable to say about the BS guy. He doesn't have anything favorable to say about Candace in terms of thinking that she's completely off the rails. He doesn't have anything great to say about who else is there? Certain ethnicities. I mean, he seems to be a very fair person in terms of being against everyone. And I think people like him are the people to listen to for that very reason, because they seem to be the least biased. They have an issue, they take issue with everything in every section of society. So I found him hilarious in that interview with Piers Morgan, particularly when he was trying to imitate the British accent. Is that what we sound like to Americans? That was hilarious. There were other hilarious moments in that interview, but I think overall it was fascinating for everyone who knows Piers Morgan to see how completely out of touch and badly he conducted that interview. How completely out of touch he is, and how badly Piers Morgan conducted that interview. So yeah, that's I I find him to be a very eloquent speaker, and he's clearly thought about a lot of things. I'm not quite sure why he's got uh, an issue with Candace, and I think that's strategic. I think because if he was against everything and everyone, as in if he supported her as well, then there would be a red mark on him. So I think that's a strategic. Yeah, he's being strategic in his vocalizing, how he vocalizes his opinion of her. What else? And I think that's really all I've sort of watched in terms of this stuff. I'm trying to be very careful about the things I watch these days because I can see how it affects me mentally. Like I feel a lot more peaceful since stopping watching manosphere type content, and since stopping watching a lot of this political discord. But I do like good speakers. And when a group of people are against someone, I always want to know why. Why, if you are so secure in your beliefs, why do you feel so strongly against this person? Like people that I don't particularly like or I don't disagree with, it's like water off a duck's back. It doesn't bother me whatever they say. I think what they say is dangerous, but it doesn't trouble me or irritate me or anger me because what I have a strong conviction in what I feel and what I think, and the truth eventually prevails. And I think this is a really interesting time right now for Americans because a lot more people are starting to wake up. I think without sounding belittling in any way, I think a lot of Americans can be quite naive about their landscape, and they don't take control of their own thinking. They kind of pass the buck to people higher up or to their religious leaders, etc., etc. And what ends up happening is that they lose the ability to think for themselves. But encouraging and positive to see that it looks like things are starting to slowly change, which is a great thing. Oh, and in terms of Tucker, I don't have any particular opinion on him either. I thought that was kind of lowbrow of him to label Nick like that after the fact rather than during the interview with him. If that's what has happened, I'm not entirely sure if it is or not, but that's what Nick Fuentes says. But I think again with Nick Fuentes, he's playing the same strategic game as Nick Fuentes by uh, playing it safe in certain aspects so that he doesn't have this big fat red mark on him. I think the only person who's not playing that strategic game is Candace Owens. And for that, I think she's incredibly brave. But these people, Tucker and Nick, they're incredibly brave people. I think Milo is incredibly brave. I don't know a lot about him because he came out during that time when he was very uh, he was really out there in his opinions, and back then I didn't really tend to watch that kind of stuff just because it just wasn't interesting to me, but I found him to always be a very, very eloquent speaker, and you can see that in the interview with him and Piers yesterday or the day before. What I like about him is that nowadays, or particularly in that interview, he just didn't get defensive at all. And I aspire to be a person like that. I'd like to not ever get defensive about someone attacking me in that way. And you could see that Piers was losing he's had a really bad week, in fact. Piers Morgan. Milo was being super, super measured, and Piers just cannot have that. He would like he's the type of person that likes to entice uh, divisiveness, which is not something I particularly respect. And like I said, he's bought and paid for. So what else would you expect from him? I won't stay too long today, you guys, but other things that have been going on, let me think. Oh, so as I had said to you guys, did I want to say that 1 second? Did I want to say anything else about Nick? Yeah, I thought it was incredibly lowbrow that Piers Morgan was commenting on his sexuality. It's none of Piers Morgan's business what Nick Fuentes does in his private life. I thought at that point he's just totally clutching at straws. Uh, yeah, I did think that way. I seem to know more about what's going on in America than I do in the UK. I actually have no awareness of the stuff that's going on in the UK, partly because of lack of interest, partly because when you're living in a place, it's almost better not to know what's going on because it could potentially just disturb you more. Whereas what's going on in America, because I don't live there, I can be quite, I can be distance from it and observe it as an outsider. And I just think it's like a soap opera, the stuff that goes on in America. There's constantly something going on. And really, these political commentators are the biggest grifters because they are the people who make the most money from speaking about this stuff. So, yeah, politics, massive grift all around. The other thing that I had mentioned to you guys is that recently I've just been noticing how so many people are learning Persian, and it's really, I'm not a competitive person in terms of my being competitive against other people. I really have very little interest on what other people are doing and what they're achieving. I admire what they're achieving, but I never compare myself to other people. I compared myself to me and my potential. And I think this is the first thing, or the first thing in a long time potentially, that I felt really competitive about these either Westerners or Africans who are learning Persian. And a lot of them, yesterday I saw a girl who was German, totally German, like blonde hair, blue eyed, learning Farsi. And in her next Instagram slide, she's traveling to Iran. And I'm like, I cannot, no, 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 no. This is not happening, my friends. So, and it's like constant. There was another guy, Caucasian American guy, who was not only speaking Farsi but also cooking Persian food. And I'm just like, hold up, hold up. This ain't happening on my time. This is not happening on my watch. So one of my difficulties with studying is that I don't really enjoy studying. I'm one of these people who likes to just take things in via osmosis rather than through studying. And I always think to myself, how did I? So I was good at school, and I just don't really understand how I was good at school, because I've never really enjoyed learning a language. This was my struggle when I was in Japan. I never enjoyed sitting down and studying, and so for me, the way of learning Japanese at that time was through speaking to people. Dating was obviously the best way to learn. Uh, so I was thinking, how am I going to get around this? Because I don't enjoy listening to the news, because I don't want to know what's going on in the world. And the language that they use is so complicated, and it's too far, it's too high a level for me. So miraculously, as I was just checking some things on Instagram, I use Instagram as my learning tool, and that's the truth. It's the truth. I limit how much time I spend on there. But as I was looking at certain things, this Love Island, and I don't know where it's set, but this Love Island with Iranian, Persian people was televised, and it's an actual thing, you guys. And I don't watch reality TV other than there's two reality TVs that I do enjoy, but I limit it to just the little 5-minute clips that they upload to YouTube, and that's Love Island sometimes if the cast are good, and also I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, which I think is hilarious. And this year it was quite good. But they've uploaded some of the full videos of this Love Island Persia. Maybe it's set in Dubai, I'm not sure. And I was like, now I have an excuse to watch reality TV. And so that's how I'm going to learn. I'm not even going to tell my mom and dad, but actually, I kind of have to, because there's words that I just don't know. And I have to go to them and ask them what these words mean. So they're going to figure that something's happening. But I thought, what a great way to kill two birds with one stone. I actively prevent myself from watching these type of reality shows, but here is a wonderful excuse for me to watch reality TV. So I was really impressed with myself for discovering that yesterday. Oh no, you didn't. Oh no, you didn't. Speak better than me. That ain't happening. Yeah, that's really kind of lit a fire under me. I'm like, when did this start happening? When did this become a thing? Why did no one warn me 5 years ago? Also, you guys, Professor Finkelstein was in London, I think a month back. Why did no one tell me about that? This channel, there has to be a purpose for this channel. I'm sort of up to date with what's going on musically, but everything else, I need you to be my eyes and ears. It's actually my fault. I'd seen a video of him in Greece, and I was like, oh, how interesting. Professor Finkelstein's in Europe. I should have connected the dots that the next logical step from being in Europe is to be in the UK. And that's what ended up happening. He did a public event in the UK, and there were tickets on Eventbrite. Eventbrite. Didn't know about it until after the fact. I don't really go to these types of things. Well, I never have actually, but yeah, I think I would have been really interested to go and listen to him. And I think that's everything, y'all. Y'all. I'm not mocking it. I actually love this. I quite like the sound of that. Y'all. Yeah. Yeah, I'm starting to think, do I live in the UK or do I live in America in terms of the stuff that I'm watching? But you know what? I'll be nice to Piers Morgan. One thing that I will say about Piers Morgan is that is that he I think prior to his channel, people weren't aware of British speakers. But because of his channel, actually it was before I think like people like Milo Minneapolis were around before Piers started his own channel. I don't really know how Milo ended up in America, but I think basically once Piers started his channel, he had so many people from so many different cultures coming on his channel that it really exposed Americans to a different viewpoint and a different type of speaker. And I think that's an amazing thing. I don't think you would have heard of half the people that you see or know about whether if it had not been for his channel. Because when you think about all the shows that are sort of popular in America, other than George Galloway, I don't think, and Piers Morgan, I don't think there's anyone else in the UK that Americans sort of know about. So that can only be a great thing. And so, as insufferable as he is, oh, I was going to be nice. As really struggling here, guys, really struggling. I've got nothing for you. As insufferable as he is, he has allowed the world to hear a variety of speakers of all different viewpoints, and I think that's a fabulous thing. No, I'm not going to talk about Akash Singh, because this is not a gossip channel. But lots to be learned from his situation. ... Brutal. This is why confidence is really important. This is why I believe, and I could be wrong, but this is what I believe. Getting married so young in your 20s, you change so much. You don't even know yourself. And so this whole pushing this narrative of young people getting married young, I think it's a huge mistake. You need to live life a little bit, know yourself better, develop yourself, understand yourself before you fully settle down. Otherwise, you get yourself caught up in situations like this. Yeah, not a pleasant position for him to be in, that's for sure. Okay, you guys, it's nice to be here. I'm gonna go. I have a busy kind of day-ish. We've got no drum and bass stuff, I don't think, happening until the end of the year. And that's okay. Gives me time to focus on other things. And yeah, it's good to be here. Peace on out.